Hi, Andres here, and today I want to talk about shooting approvals from an environment different from the default environment. If you've done that before, you may have encountered some errors saying that this user is not found, etc. So what we're going to do is learn how to solve that problem and also understand how approvals works behind the scenes, together with a little bit of Dataverse or Power Performance Security. So stay till the end of the video if you want to learn about all that. All right, so we're going to use this portable flow, very simple one, to understand what's going on behind the scenes. We have a trigger, manual trigger, where we are inputting the user's email, and then we shoot this approval, start and wait for approval, using that email address. So I'm going to shoot it directly from here, run. I'm going to provide the address, known address here from my company, and shoot it. Here we go. It's running, the flow is running, and then at any point, I'm going to receive an approval. Here it goes. By the way, if you didn't know that, if you go to the approvals app in Teams, same happens in for Automate. You can select here the different environments right here, and here every environment has its own instance where to shoot or collect approvals from. And this is the actual flow. So I'm going to approve it. And then, well, it's done, approved. All right. So if we go here and I refresh, this is done. Perfect. Now I'm going to do the same with a different address from the organization with my PowerTest user. All right. If I send the approval, you'll see that directly the flow has failed. Let's take a look at the error and understand what's happening here. All right, so let's actually zoom in here and let's take a look. So user non-member of CDS security group. CDS standing Common Data Service. This is the old name for Dataverse and before that rename. And you see here the user with this identifier cannot be created in Microsoft Dataverse because the account is not a member of group equity of the group. Okay. So before getting to the weeds of approvals and how that works behind the scenes, all the internals, let's just solve the issue, show you how you can solve the issue, and then if you want to stay to the rest of the video, please do that and understand how approval works behind the scenes. So basically what we want to do is understand that what this means basically is that the user that we try to send the approvals to, that power test user, is not a member of this group. What group? If you don't know what group it is, take a hint here as the administrator. When you see as the administrator in general in Power Platform errors, that means the admin for the environment. And how can you learn about that is you go here to the environment, you click here, okay, and go here, three dots, go to admin center, and you are redirected to the Power Platform admin center, particularly inside the environment. So here we are in the environment, and these are the settings for this environment in the admin center. And what you need to take a look at is basically here the security group. The security group, if you look at the security group in Entra ID in a Active Directory, you'll find that this is the group, and this ID is the same. If we just copy it, it's the same that you will find here. I will do Control F, yeah, in the actual error message, right? So if we zoom in, the user, the account, the user is not a member of group, and this is the group that is controlling access to the environment. So long story short, if you want to solve this issue, you need to ensure that the user is a member of this group in order to shoot approvals to the particular user. Otherwise, approvals won't work. All right, now you know how to solve this. Quick fix, really. But if you're brave enough, you also want to find out together with me what's actually happening. What's the reason behind this behavior? So really, if you're brave enough to accompany me through this journey, uh, bear with me because we're going to be jumping between tabs a lot. So hope it's not too messy. So To understand what's going on here, we need to understand what approvals is, right? And if we go here, approvals tables Dataverse, if you do the search in Bing, Google, whatever, here, you'll find out that approvals, if this is the Microsoft documentation, the Dataverse documentation, it's actually a bunch of tables together with some other functionality. So actually these tables, we can find them in here. If we go to the environment, it's the same environment where the flow was failing. So we go here, filter tables all, and find proof, approval. Here we will find the table with approvals. The pull request response, it's really here what we can find in the documentation. It's really actually true when we try to find it inside our environment. So if we wanted, we could go here and you see here the result, the title, who's the owner, when this was created, and anything, all the information is going to be here in all those tables that are related between each other in this model that conforms approvals. So then we need to understand that if approvals is truly a Dataverse-based solution, then we need to understand how Dataverse works in terms of security model and ownership of records to see why is this behavior happening. So before jumping really inside the tables, let's take a look what happens when we move from this environment to the default environment. I believe this is the tab here. Yeah. So here I have the same flow here. Let's take a look, but in the default environment. Okay, so just to verify, it's the same. So we have this trigger and then start away from an approval using the input. So basically, if here I send the approval, again, run, and I'm going to use this port test user again. Okay, here, boom. I read the flow. You'll see, well, spoiler, because this was from the Spanish version of the video. The flow is running. The flow is running and it's not going to crash. It's actually waiting for this user to send a response, but I'm not going to log in with that user, so I'm just going to cancel the run. So I'm going inside and just cancel the run. You see, it's waiting for the approval, right? So I will just hit cancel because we don't want to see how that works. Okay. Okay, so let's compare the duration here. It's been 29 seconds until we cancel the flow. But if we go to, where is it, the flow where it failed, this is the flow in the other environment, YouTube approval test environment, we see that the duration was not even 1 second and it already failed. And it's failure, not cancellation of flow. So that means that it's really something wrong. Of course, the user was not found in the environment, that's what's happening. But let's see what's going on behind the scenes. If we go to the actual tables of approvals, but in the default environment rather, to understand what's going on. So if we go here, tables, filter by all tables, approve. Oh, no, that's not it. Okay, approval. So let's take a look here, and I will open this in a new tab. Okay, here we go. All right, so you see here, these are some of the columns that the approval table has. This is the date it was created on. This is the actual trigger that we just canceled. This is the test approval. This is what it's actually in the flow. And source, where you can see if there's no source, it's Power Automate, it's SharePoint. It means that it was triggered from a SharePoint document library release, and the result, obviously, is the result of the approval. But if we click here and we select Edit Row using Form, we will access to the form of the row for this table that's configured out of the box for us and comes with the table. So I haven't configured anything. And we see it's, well, yeah, not much information here. Why? Because we don't use approvals with these forms. We use it with our interfaces Power Automate or the approvals application inside Teams or the approvals application inside Power Automate and make.powerautomate.com. And the interesting thing is that here in related, we see all those tables that we were seeing in the documentation: requests, responses, flow approvals, zero the flow, and steps. Now, we're going to take a look actually at approval request. Approval request is the request that is sent to the user and that will trigger the seeing the email or seeing the Teams pop-up notification. And this is it, right? This is the record. And you see here, PowerTest user is actually the recipient in the owner field, the recipient of the approval request. Now, if you're familiar with the owner field in Dataverse, you already know that this has clicked. So this means, okay, it's using the owner field and the user needs to be in the system user table. And if the user is not a member of the group, then it's not a member of the system user table. And then, of course, we cannot find it. The flow cannot create a request because we don't find the user. Okay, that's all the reasoning. So, but we're going to go slowly there in case you don't know about the owner field. Let's take a look here. If we take a look at the, where is it? The approvals. Let's go to approval request here. Approval request. This is the table, okay? And if you take a look here in the URL, you'll see always entity. This is the key for entity, and this is the name of the entity. Okay, so if we copy here, we should see exactly this is the name, the internal name of the table. And here, what we want to see is this owner field, what this owner field is. And we go to here, columns, attributes, columns of the owner ID. Here, yeah, owner. Sorry, writable ones. Here, owner ID. If we go to owner ID, you'll see that display name is owner, logical name is owner ID, and targets is the, let's say, because you see this is a lookup, right? Oh, the display name is owner, and this is a lookup. So if we go here, this is a lookup to a user. Here we could search this actually, yeah, my user, right? And this is a lookup field, power test again, meaning that it's a lookup to another table. And what the target means is that it's a lookup to a system user table. What is system user? Okay, this is a table, system user table. If we go here and filter user entity reference, it's loading. Now here, system user table, person with access to the Microsoft CRM system and who owns objects in the Microsoft CRM database. Microsoft CRM database is Dataverse. And if we jump here, back here, if we go to tables, we actually can see this table. We filter by all, system user table in here. And we open table here. We can filter here, contains, for test. This is the user, right? It is here. And if we do the same, now going back to this environment, the environment where we have this issue, we go to tables and we look for the sports user in system user table. Let me do that. Now here we go. So let me filter contains power test. It's empty, right? And this is exactly the problem. So when approvals is trying to create a request, goes to this table, looks for power test user, is not here, and then it fails. So what's the reason behind who is in this table and who is not? So the answer is actually where we were looking at here, security group, YouTube approval test. This is controlling the users that are in it. So if the user is inside this security group, it means that it's synchronized automatically to the system user table. So it's going to be automatically populated here in the system user table. But if we go to here in the default environment and we go to the admin center, now, so for the security group in the default environment, you see that it's not assigned, it's empty. When this security group is empty inside an environment, means that all the company has access to the environment. Now, don't panic here. If you are worried about everybody having access to the environment, having access to the environment doesn't mean that you can do anything inside the environment. Having access to the environment just means your user is inside the system user table. And that means that you can potentially do things in the environment. But in order to do things inside the environment, do things means access data, access an app, create an app, create a flow, any action. For that, you need a security role assigned to you. Now, the default environment is a special case. It's a special case because you see here, it's created by the system. Every organization, every Microsoft 365 tenant has a default environment. Why? Because several apps in behind the scenes work with Dataverse. For example, project for the web. Behind the scenes, it's a solution or like approvals that has some Dataverse tables behind it and some other actions. That's why all the organization needs to have access already with some roles in the default environment. But when you create a fresh environment, a different environment, just like this one over here, the one that we were seeing here, and you set up a security group, here this is a blank canvas for you. You design the security modeling here. And by default, if you are not careful, you will find out by these errors that you have not properly configured accesses and permissions to the people that you are working with in a Power Platform solution. So to wrap up, the reason that we were not able to send the approvals is because the user, the target user for the approval, was not in the system user table, and who controls who is or who is not in the system user table is the security group in the environment here. And if you don't have a security group, means that all the company is can have access to the environment. Doesn't mean that can do things in the same environment, just that they are in the system user table. And if we do have a security group here, we need to in advance ensure that the users that are going to be targeted by our approval solution are inside this security group.